You ever had nightmares about the dynamic dude?
Oh, gee, you know, Shane wasn't so bad, but that fucking left foot Laurinaitis, let me tell you something. Actually, the dudes didn't give me nightmares. We managed to forget the matches, but then somehow Laurinaitis came back in a reincarnation to inflict misery on the entire world of wrestling, and actually my bigger nightmares are about the shit that he did to Ohio Valley Wrestling in Louisville on the way to completely destroying and demolishing the WWE developmental program anywhere and completely destroying their chances of finding, training, and fostering future talent. All goes on John Laurinaitis' back because he's a big lying sack of shit. Hi, John. Fuck you. Laurinaitis didn't know what the fuck he was doing. I'm sorry, John. You know you're a complete fucking idiot and you're a liar. You know, he would... Then we start... The thing is...
Does anyone like him?
No, not in the world. No, his own mother slapped the stork that delivered him. I get on the phone, I call Laurinaitis for this voicemail. It's John Laurinaitis. It's Jim Cornette. My top heel just walked into fucking television, looks like a 40-year-old truck driver. Would you please tell this alleged creative team that if they can't fucking pretend or imagine what a guy looks like bald, give me 2 weeks notice, I'll book him in a hair match, I'll shave it, and I'll sell some tickets. Thank you, fuck you, bye. Jim Herd, God bless him, God rest his soul. I'd love to be able to say that for real, but he's not dead yet. I got my fingers crossed. He got me on Sprite because it's caffeine free. And see, when I was spent 6 months on the WCW booking committee working with Jim Herd, I ended up being hospitalized with a fucking stomach problem because I was so stressed that I was overproducing stomach acid, which led to the symptoms of a heart attack, and they had me hooked up to the daggum thing, and I thought I was having a heart attack, and they said, prescription strength Zantac and stay away from stress. I said, I work for Jim Herd. I can't do that.
As despised as Jim Herd was, do you know of any good ribs that were pulled on?
Well, actually, no. You don't rib people unless you like them or unless it's some fucking annoying fuck that you really don't like and you can get away with it. He didn't fit either category because nobody liked him, but at the same point, he had a position of power. But when I can't remember what the milestone was, but I was living in Knoxville because I remember making the phone call to 1-800-Flowers or whatever from my office downstairs. So it was in '92, right before he left. He was fixed to leave because he left in '92, so he was fixed to quit. And they reached some milestone where some house was so rotten, or some pay-per-view was nobody watched, or some rating was so minuscule that I just called up 1-800-Flowers and sent him a bouquet at the CNN Center in Atlanta, a bouquet of dead black roses with a card that said, our deepest sympathies on the death of your wrestling promotion, Jim Cornette and Stan Lane. No, there were no good ribs with Herd. He wasn't, he had no sense of humor, he had no sense. Nobody liked him, nobody cared. They just, the way I wanted to give my resignation, because we knew we were going to quit WCW. And we talked about, I fantasized about it in the car. I'd almost get a hard on. For the last year I was with WCW, I was booking Smoky Mountain Wrestling in my head. You know, we talked about it. I talked with Bobby and Stan back and forth. And the original plan was to take the Midnight with me, but you know, we thought we'd let the contract expire. We didn't know Stan and I were going to quit, and that whole story's detailed. But anyway, I want to give my notice this way. I said to Jim Herd, I want to fucking walk in with a starter pistol, a blank gun, and kick his fucking door open and fire 5 shots at him. That's why I'm going to quit. And Bobby brought me back out of it because he said, Corny, as many people as this guy has fucked around, he's probably got a real loaded one in his fucking top desk drawer. And I said, well, yeah, okay. But then for a brief moment, I thought maybe I'll just take a loaded one first because I wanted, but I'd rather put my thumbs just in his eye sockets and just do it that way. Laughed at it. Everybody, the NWA wrestlers laughed at it. You know, I guess they laughed last, but it was silly, it was stupid, it was cartoony, made wrestling phony, and it was funnier in retrospect than the fucking rotten material that they give guys now to say on television, because at least it was the boys coming up with their own fucking funny shit, and the boys are somewhat funny, but I hated it. Hated it. Wouldn't even watch it if somebody gave me a free fucking tape because it was the start of the downfall of our business. Don't insult people's attention or insult people's intelligence and just start slapping them in the face that we're phony, it's all a show, fucking cartoon. No, I was aggravation eating. I got up 278 pounds at my height in the WWF. I would eat 3-4 fucking dinners. I was just eating like I'm gonna kill fucker. I hate this fucking shit. I hate fucking Connecticut. I want to go home. Blah, blah, blah. And by the way, if you ever think about doing business with the WWE and you're in the wrestling business, they will fuck you because they think that they're better than you are. Why does the WWE hardly use any of the SMW footage? Is it to get back at you? Do they just not see the value in it or what? I don't think it's anything. They would rather show the best of Chief Jay Strongbow from 1973. All those classic fucking matches. If I said fuck you WWE in the past 15 seconds, because I'd like to again, it just feels so good running off my tongue. Fuck you WWE. Great in the ring and horrible for business. Not only, I won't say he didn't draw, but he was horrible for business as far as doing business. Because how many times did he drop the thing once he won it? Did he lose his smile? Was he fucking upset about something? Was he cranky that week? Was his asshole bleeding? Was her asshole bleeding that week? With Jose, that was Bruce Pritchard, as I recall, came up with that. It was supposed to be the Rocky Burgess Meredith thing. Yeah. And actually that tied into the original idea with Vader, that Vader would, Vader bomb fucking poor Jose, and and Shawn would cry over his mentor, and it'd be that touching moment. Jose did train Shawn. Jose broke Shawn into business. Shawn did not want him in the ring with him. And I don't know why. He never actually came out and said it. You can just tell it because he would turn away from him. He didn't put him over. There was never that father-son relationship. There was never that genuine feeling. He ignored him half the time and yelled at him a few times.
Didn't want to share the spotlight.
Well, like the 65-year-old manager and the fucking 35-year-old fat manager on the other side are going to steal the spotlight from him. Jesus Christ, what the fuck? Shawn kept a lot of heat with people. When the next year at WrestleMania with the match with Austin and Tyson, as soon as Taker was finished, he went back, he taped his fists, sat right down in gorilla position and watched the monitor, watch Shawn drop the title to Austin. And provided everything went the right way, that was all that was going to happen, and everything went the right way. And as soon as 1, 2, 3, ding, 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 he stood up, started pulling his tape off, and went and changed. Because Undertaker cared about business and the rest of the boys rather than his own fucking little meager self. Shawn, hi. Born again. Was not in favor the first time. You were always a prick to me. I just want to remind you of that. Michaels is 0 for life on any kind of fucking real fight. The Harris boys, I think it was Ron watched the door and Don watched the door and Ron grabbed him by the neck and held him up to his feet. We're going wee, wee, wee in the garden on their last day. And the Marine beat him up, or the 9 Marines or 1 Marine, depending on the story. And actually, Davey Boy Smith was with him, but they had a 2-door rental car. And where the seat flips up, you get in the back seat, Davey, as big as he was in the back seat with the seat on him, and he couldn't get out to save Shawn's fucking little rabbit ass. Shawn Michaels, he was unprofessional. He was always on fucking pills or whatever. And by the way, Shawn, fuck you too. For the way you fucking talked to me, for the way you talked to Jose Lothario who got you in the business, for the way that you fucking got with your little clique and fucking exposed the business in Madison Square Garden and kowtowed, and everybody had to kowtow to you, and you're whining and you lost your smile and you didn't want to do jobs, and wherever you were pilled up doing whatever the fuck you were doing, you were a fucking asshole and a prick. And if you found God, that's generally because I've noticed people in this business that find God do so when everybody else hates them so bad they won't speak to them. When mortals won't speak to you, you find a higher power.
This is who I am, on fire. This is who I am, on fire.
By the way, here's what I think about Triple H. His promos, I'd rather watch a dog lick its balls. Boring and way too long. One time I had Raw on and he's talking, and then I fucking go out to the garage, I get some, I come back, he's talking, then he gets in the ring to wrestle. Okay, so I go make myself a fucking sandwich, I come back, he's talking after he finished the fucking match.
Good worker, student of the game, but he's the guy that works with the guy that draws the money. With Triple H, unless he had married into the family and been smashed into that spot year after year after year, with the interruptions for the injuries, with the bland promos, would he have ever been in that spot if he was just, even, he's a good worker, but he ain't Shawn Michaels as far as show stealer. He ain't Steve Austin as far as, or The Rock as far as fucking megastar. He ain't Mick Foley as far as talent. He doesn't get, does Triple H get mentioned in with those guys? Flair, Foley, Taker, Austin, Rock, except in WWF scripted fucking television commercials? No.
He was a fucking kiss ass and a suck up then. He's apparently, well, now he doesn't need to kiss ass and suck up because he's licking the right crack. So therefore, he doesn't need to suck anybody. But the point is, he didn't mean it when he apologized to me. He didn't mean it when he apologized to the boys. He didn't mean it when he was saying he was sorry that he exposed the business. And so, you know, he's got, as his brow increases from steroid or HGH use, so does his ego from fucking being irreplaceable because he's got the keys to the kingdom. Because he's fucking married to the boss's daughter. You noticed every time somebody buddies up to Helmsley, they get the title? We pushed Batista to the moon. The first time I saw Dave Batista, he could not sell a punch. Alpha had taught him how to write a check. He immediately in training tore his bicep because he was so fucking steroided up. And he was off on the sidelines for 3 months, and he got a chance to sit and watch class, and then he was better. And he had an amazing look. He was a good natural athlete. He was a very frail demon. He was always sitting there with his sweatshirt on, and he was always very cold and always very chilly. And you should have seen when we brought him up, rose him out of the Ohio River. Oh my God, he was down there going, oh my God, snakes and shit. And he did whatever his wife said for him to do. And he was just a pussy-whipped, fucking frail, fucking quiet demon. But Leviathan, the demon of the deep, the guardian of the gates of hell, the right hand of Satan himself, was the most physically dominant force that had ever been in the promotion. And we smashed him over. He beat everybody. He did no jobs. He beat 2 guys and 3 guys at a time. We made him so... our version of The Undertaker, because that's what I was going for. I was going for The Undertaker's next money pay-per-view opponent, because look at the guy. He can't take arm drags in the second match. He's either got to be main event or nothing. So I was shooting for a gimmick that he could, with his limited ability, to be quite honest, that he could perform, that could get over, and it did. And I put him in the ring with Kane, and he's sitting there. I said, tell Glenn what you do. Well, anything you want to do. He just had no oomph to him. Put him in a ring with The Undertaker for the first time in Louisville. All these things drew. Put him in a ring with Big Show. All these things drew money. They sold tickets. He was an attraction, but he was never driven to be a success. He like, oh, I'm sick today or whatever the fuck. So anyway, finally, they take him up there. They put him in a suit and put the box around his neck for Devon, right? You remember that? And they're about ready to fire him, and somehow he starts working out with Helmsley, and all of a sudden he's a top guy. And then all of a sudden he writes a book. He didn't learn anything in OVW. Well, it wasn't for lack of trying. I called him on the phone. I said, Dave Batista, left a message on his voicemail. I said, I'd like you to call me back and tell me why you say you didn't learn anything. When we took care of you, we liked you, we smashed you over, we did everything we could possibly do for you, and then you come and knock me and Danny Davis. I said, I'd like you to call me and tell me why. In the meantime, fuck you.
Sable never wanted she wanted to be on television. She wanted to be in Playboy. She wanted to be on TV. She wanted to be a star. She didn't want to be in the wrestling business. That was just the means to the end. She didn't care about being in the wrestling business. She didn't want to train to not even to be a wrestler, just to do anything physical convincingly. The one time Luna had to hit her with the belt, she ended up pushing it into her back like that because she was afraid, oh my God, I'll get hurt. Well, it ain't ballet, sister. You're making a lot of fucking money for the plastic surgeon you chose, which was your only fucking talent. It's not, I never had any words with her as a person, except the concept of Sable galled me. She wasn't a good speaker. She couldn't cut a promo. She wasn't a good dancer. She didn't have any rhythm. She wasn't interested in being in the wrestling business or learning how to wrestle. She was making a lot of fucking money and taking up a fucking spot. But because these 2 middle-aged men were fixated on how beautiful she was, when half of that was created and arranged by a plastic surgeon. Over here, Sonny. Sonny was an out front cunt, whereas Sable was an undercover cunt. I said, she's gonna, sooner or later, when she gets in some leverage, then you're gonna find out, because she's a snot to all the other girls.
That's what I.
She just nice to you guys. She's an undercover cunt. Sonny's an out front cunt. She's a bitch and she's out front with it. But she's talented. She can cut a promo. She loves the business. Marlena was talented, could cut a promo, was professional. Sable was the one they were fixated on. Holy.
Just because of her look, I guess it sounds.
Well, what else? What the fuck was there?
I don't know.
In the production meetings, it would sometimes be a half an hour when she come out for the T-shirt spot. Where's the T-shirt spot gonna go with Sable, blah, blah, blah. You know, and that Stepford wife, monotonous tone, nasal drone to her voice. This is for all the men who want to see me and the women who want to be me, or whatever the fuck. I said one time, well, I don't know what they got for putting a live microphone in front of Sable's mouth, but it should have been 3 to 5 years. So then, and I'll tell you one more story, we'll get back to it. So then she kills Mark Mero's career. Because, of course, Mero is overshadowed by this fucking statuesque blonde next to him, and he don't know how to be anybody but Johnny B. Bad. So they switch him heel, and he's got a boxer gimmick, and he's got this and that and all the other things. Finally, he is booked in Los Angeles, either Anaheim or L.A., one of the big arenas in Los Angeles, against Steve Austin in a main event. And the week before, on television or pay-per-view or whatever the fuck it was, I think it was a pay-per-view, because I remember, actually, they told me they were going to do this at the warehouse at Studio in Stamford, and I was gobsmacked, but I wasn't about to I wanted to see if this actually would take place. Sable, 125 pounds with the pneumatic tits, power bombs the 230-pound Mark Mero on the floor outside the ring on the mats right at the show. Do you remember this happening? You remember do you remember that? Okay, a pigeon gallery over there. Steve Austin immediately picks up the phone and calls Vince McMahon and says, you know that match that we were going to have in Los Angeles next week, who am I wrestling now? Because this fucking moron let his 125-pound wife powerbomb him on live television around the world. Why is Stone Cold Steve Austin going to have 15 seconds worth of trouble whipping this fucking guy? So pretty soon it was Mark Mero was coming in carrying Sable's bags into the building. Wait, let me get down here. Steve, go down to here. Have you ever seen this fucking clown? The fucking, he cuts his hair with a pencil sharpener. And he's got the buck teeth down here. He makes $500,000 a year or better these days. He can't have his fucking teeth fixed. And then everybody who has ever worked there in the television crew, or like I was talking to one of their old directors the other day, works for TNA, the people who worked on the crew, he'll get on the headsets, he's in the truck, he's the producer, and he's talking to the crew, and he's eating chips.
And we're not wrestling. And I don't know why you think we're wrestling. Just because we have wrestlers in wrestling boots and wrestling tights in a wrestling ring. Fuck you.
Kevin Dunn can respect somebody that's not from wrestling, but from actual television, because then he can sniff their crotch and fantasize. While rubbing his nipples. I said, you know what I'm tired of, motherfucker? I'm tired of them Bucky Beaver fucking teeth of yours. And I stand up and I say, and I'm going to pull you across this goddamn table, beat the fuck out of you. Which, folks, I'm not Ken Shamrock. I'm not Randy the Natural Couture, but I can whip Kevin Dunn. And I got out of production meetings with Kevin Dunn for 3 weeks because he didn't want to be in the same room with me. And then it came to Jim from Vince McMahon. You've got to apologize to Kevin Dunn. He's a very important member of the team here. His father once saved the fucking TV tapes from his burning car trunk or whatever. So Kevin's got a job for life. So Kevin Dunn comes over to Vince's house and we sit just the two of us. Vince leaves us alone in Vince's dining room. And as I'm first and only time I have ever apologized to anybody when I didn't mean it, but at the same time, goddamn this fucking guy, he treated me like I was a guy that ran the Ferris wheel at the county fair. Ever since I've fucking been there, the wrestling thing and the southern thing and the northern thing, and I was about fed up with this motherfucker. But Vince demanded it. Vince wanted me to. I work here, so I'm going to apologize to the guy. The fucking guy starts crying. But you don't understand, the kids in school, I was always teased about my and he started tears, I swear to God, on my mother's grave, Kevin Dunn cried while I was apologizing to him about knocking his Bucky Beaver fucking teeth that everybody talks about behind his back. And he was crying because the kids used to tease him in school, and he was crying. How can I be mad at the guy if he's crying at me? But at the same time, motherfucker, especially now since you make $2 or $3 million a year since the stock scam, get your fucking teeth fixed. Jim Ross booked all these legends, including Mr. Muchnick. Kevin Dunn, as we're writing the pay-per-view format and going over it, we included a package in the show. He said, let's do that before the show goes on the air. I said, why the fuck we got all these guys here? People want to see them. Well, nobody's going to know who they are. Oh, God damn you. I hate you, motherfucker. I wish you'd just fucking drop over and burst into fucking flames.
He said no one will know who they are.
Nobody's going to know who they are. If you know it's NWA, that's not our fans. God damn you. Just fuck you. Go away and die and leave us wrestling fans to our fucking enjoyment. You fucking Bucky Beaver motherfucker. I hate you to this day.
Can't say that I hate Paul Heyman personally. It's nothing like and I mean, Paulie's always had his little tricks. Like, you know, when I quit WCW, he'd call me at my house in Charlotte every month or so, you know, on the pretext of, you know, how are you doing or whatever. But actually, you got them right where you want them. They'll give you anything to come back. Paul, I'm not coming back. I don't like those people that want to work for him. You got them right where you want them. Just keep it up like that. Either he thought everything was always work, because in his mind it is, or elsewise he was checking to see. One time he even put his arm around me like this, started walking me to the door. If I were you, I wouldn't take this. He wanted to get me out of there. Paul is a pathological liar, and I said at the time he'd rather climb a tree and tell a lie and stand on the ground and tell the truth. And he hated that, but it's true. Candido and Tammy went in the hole financially on his say-so. A lot of guys did. He fucked up a lot of people's lives with not just telling them the truth. There's the famous Bubba Ray Dudley story about FedEx. Bubba is promoting one of the New York towns, because Bubba's from New York for ECW, and he needs, like, out of posters, tickets, promotional material, or whatever. He calls Paul. Paul, where is this shit? Oh, I got the FedEx tracking number right here. It's 472654651. And Bubba says, Paul, that's one too many numbers. I'll just knock the last one off. No, and he stood, Brian Hildebrand, desperately, Mark Curtis, I can't say a bad thing for him, I knew him for 20 years. Everybody loved Brian. He wanted to referee for ECW. That's before he got, after Smoky Mountain closed, before he got the WCW spot, because all the guys liked him so much. He actually was promised a date, and his plane ticket never showed up. So he called Paul. Paul said, oh, it'll be at the airport. He drove from Morristown 50 miles to the fucking Knoxville airport. No ticket. Call Paul. What? Just call me right back. He calls him back in 10 minutes. Answer machine. Never could get him again. Never could get him again. Standing there. You know, he stood Brian up. Just did a lot of shit like that. Just tell the people the truth, Paul. Just once. That's all. We would have never had these issues. But now one of these days, you and me, on pay-per-view. Terry Funk on fucking fire.
These fucking ECW marks are a goddamn bunch of fucking morons that bash each other over the head with shit for real for no fucking money.
It was contrived. It was choreographed. I'll never forget. I didn't watch a lot of ECW TV. I was up there in Connecticut for a lot of it. I didn't even want to watch the WWF TV. But I watched one night, and there's these two guys. I can't remember who it was. There's a table set up in the middle of the ring. They get up on the top turnbuckle, and they're both standing there holding on each other, and they're clutching each other while they're on the top turnbuckle, and there's the table, and I don't even think thumbtacks had come in yet, thank God. But they got each other, and all of a sudden you see them look at each other, look down, and go, okay, here we go. And they both jump off together. It wasn't real. Even though ECW presented Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero, it's always forever known, get the tables, chairs, ladders, fucking fire extinguishers, lights out, crucifixions, barbed wire, broken glass, the Rottens. Boy, they sure were, too. This hardcore bullshit where suddenly, you know, I like the business, as Dutch Mantel always says, his greatest line, I like the business a lot better when the marks were up front in the seats. All of a sudden, guys are beating the fuck out of each other for real in front of a bunch of people who know that everything they're doing is choreographed, and they're cheering it because they're really hurting each other. What kind of fucking psychology is that? And they're doing it for practically no money,
And they're also doing it just for the sake of being on television so the people chant ECW. Why do the wrestlers in the ring want the people to chant the name of the promotion? It used to be, go Ricky, go, go. Now it's ECW. Oh, great. I just fractured my fucking sacroiliac, broke my fucking leg, and shoved a fucking wooden spike up my taint. And they're not chanting Jim, 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 they're chanting ECW. Great. Fucking stupid. It hurt the fucking guys, it hurt the fucking business, it immuned and numbed the fans. You can't do an angle anymore, an injury angle, because they've seen these guys do everything but fucking be run through a razor blade factory. It hurt the business, it hurt our tools, the ability we had to get heat and draw. It numbed people to everything. It was fucking rotten. I think hardcore wrestling is the most ridiculous, fucking inane, stupid thing that I've ever seen in my life. And I talked about ECW, you know, they only scratched the surface. This combat zone wrestling bullshit, the broken light tubes, the fluorescent light tubes, the fucking barbed wire, the staple gun, I mean, just anything about it. I think it's fucking ridiculous. I think anybody that perpetrates it has to have their head examined. I think anybody that promotes it ought to be put in fucking jail. It's embarrassing that the average person would hear that somebody's being stapled with a fucking staple gun or ripped up with broken glass or doing this fucking foolishness. It takes no talent. It takes no art. The people that fucking go and pay to see it, I have serious doubts about their fucking mental capacity, that you would think that's fucking entertainment, which taxes the very definition of the word. And the whole thing is fucking ridiculous. And it's, what if you were a basketball fan and all your life you loved basketball? You got a tickle out of the Harlem Globetrotters, but I mean, at least it was still a fucking athletic fucking show. But mostly you like the Boston Celtics or the goddamn whatever the fuck. And all of a sudden they come up with new rules for basketball, like I'm sure would like to write, where you've got to make the inbounds pass through across a flaming table. And if you got to shoot a free throw, you got to shoot it over a fucking 3 coils of barbed wire. And there's a guy on the fucking top of the goddamn basket that's going to fucking try to spear the ball and puncture it and throw a spear at you and whatever the fuck. People, what the fuck is this? Why would anybody want to be involved in this? Why the fuck would anybody want to be involved in a situation where they're going to be ripped up with barbed wire, bashed with fucking light tubes, cut with broken glass, snapped with mouse traps, and hit with a fucking staple gun? I made $15,000 for fucking WrestleMania. I took one bump and it was a shitty one because Luger threw a shitty punch. I made $10,000 for jumping off that fucking scaffold and regretted that. And somebody's going to do that shit to themselves for $20 because, like Ian Rotten, they have some kind of inordinate need to be somebody in front of a few fucking deluded, fucking delinquent fucking people at a goddamn bowling alley in fucking West Fuckwad, Indiana. It just makes everybody in our business look like fucking morons. You want to appeal to 200 guys that ain't getting laid that night, that are fucking sitting in a goddamn truck stop parking lot, or do you want to appeal to 10,000 people in a major coliseum because you're an athlete and a performer and you are doing something that most people are not good enough to do? I'm good enough to hit you in the head with a blunt instrument, and I bet you that you will bleed when I do it because I'll just hit you really hard. What talent did that fucking take? Now then, when people pay to see that, do they really feel good about themselves when they go home? If they do, then they're the same type of people that fucking molest the cat and kick the dog. I don't want to be around those people. Dixie Carter, you employ about $40 million of your father's money that he dug up out of the ground has been thrown back in a fucking oil well that fucking dug because you're too stupid to fucking figure out that everybody else in the business ain't wrong. You are. Always got along with Terry Taylor, and he had actually sent me an email saying, Jim, I've always been your friend. I like you, I really do. I'm sure we'll work together again someday. Your friend Terry Taylor. And that was last October, the last thing he ever emailed to me. And since then, people had told me, you know, Terry Taylor's a stooge. He's a backstabber. He's a liar. He talks out of both sides of his neck. He was in on it with. They were trying to take over the company, take over the direction of the company. So I wrote Terry Taylor a simple little email doing two things. Putting over him and all the rest of the people in the company that I liked, many of them by name, and saying about what I've always wanted to have the opportunity to say to face, not even on the phone, in person. Guess who flunked the Stooge test? And you know, I'm not as broke up about it. I got hundreds of emails over the next several days after this happened, and I'll tell you why it happened in a second, but I got hundreds of emails, and I know what it's like to lose a friend. You know, it's a pain that goes deep with it. I appreciate y'all thinking about me, but it wasn't that painful because I'd had people that I really do respect and really do believe tell me, I didn't have proof, but they told me, Terry Taylor's a fucking weasel. So I just gave him a weasel test. The email wasn't intercepted by internet technology people or whatever, the IT people, because number one, I've been to the TNA offices. These people are lucky to be able to get their own emails, right? They got no staff. Secondly, the letter that I got sent the copy of was not the email that I sent to Terry Taylor. It was the email that Terry Taylor sent to in the time and date that he sent it to him to his personal email address. So he forwarded it, shot it right over. Just like the fucking spineless, dickless stooge that Terry has become since he wears that empty suit now because he's scared he'll get fucking fired because he's had so many problems everywhere else and he couldn't get hired in WCW because of human resources complaints about hitting on the girls and all that stuff. But anyway. Shows me a videotape of the Japanese hardcore IWA, which I don't watch anyway, but there's Terry Funk and there's Cactus Jack but these fucking people, whoever the fuck they are in their real lives, are doing the commentary. They gave everybody phony names and they're making a joke out of the wrestling business. These fucking imbeciles, they're fucking abortion, they're a goddamn shame to the music business, the wrestling business, and any other kind of business. I don't like the people that go to their fucking shows. The people that go to their shows are fucking garbage. You can quote me on this. There are people I don't want to be around. If I was running a wrestling promotion and people like that wanted to buy tickets to my event, I would discourage them from doing so, and I don't want their money because nobody that's sane and rational and reasonable would want to be around these type of fucking people. And they're and they pay because they, for some reason, have people who support this fucking line of bullshit that they put out as music. They pay wrestling legends to come to their fucking events, which I've talked to some of the guys who have gone to these things, and they start at midnight, and they take place in mud fields, and they have crowds who are fucked up on various fucking drugs and fucking create havoc, and they're garbage people who appeal to garbage people. And please quote me on all of this, anybody who wants to do so. So anyway, I'm doing a Q&A as is my tradition at the Charlotte Fan Fest one year, and this was a couple of years into it, and somebody said, oh, the Insane Clown Posse.
The goddamn deal is, the Insane Clown Posse are a bunch of jackpots that make a mockery out of professional wrestling business. Therefore, fuck you and everybody that looks like you.
And then I invited all the people that were there for my Q&A to say, do you want me to stay or do you want these fucking asshole Insane Clown Posse people to stay?
Your records were released, they escaped.
And everybody started singing, na 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 na, hey, 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 goodbye at the Insane Clown Posse and their fucking posse. And we kicked them out of the goddamn room.
I ain't talking for the wrestling fans, and I don't give a shit for your bullshit, so fuck off.
Insane Clown Posse, fuck you. I've never worked for you. I never will because I have fucking standards. And that's something that you don't understand because you appeal to a bunch of trash. You are trash who drags the wrestling business down. Fuck you and feed you fish heads. I don't want to be around those people. I hate rap. I despise rap. I think life is too short to have to listen to that fucking horse shit. And I especially hate white rappers. And this ain't being racist,
But goddamn, I don't act Chinese or Mexican or fucking Filipino or whatever. These goddamn schizophrenic pants that are too long to be short and too short to be long, and this fucking backwards baseball cap, and I want to just slap these motherfuckers. They should be thrown screaming from helicopters in front of their fucking families. Somebody said he had a heart attack. I found that hard to believe. You had to have found a heart.
That, last week we were talking about that fictitious Kiss My Ass Club. Who would I want to join my Kiss My Ass Club, right?
Yeah.
And, of course, one of the people I mentioned was that fat, no-good, human waterbed, blowhard piece of shit, gutless, wonder, coward Mark Madden from Pittsburgh, the scourge of Pittsburgh, who's been fired for making tasteless comments from every broadcast job he's ever had. And, I tell a lie. He didn't get fired from WCW because he sucked Eric Bischoff's dick to get a fucking job, and then proceeded to turn on every friend he'd ever had and knock them and lie about him. I was one of those people. He's a liar. You couldn't believe him if his tongue was notarized. He thinks he's a big deal. He's a fat, ugly, useless, lived at home with his mother until he was 40 years old. I don't even know what adjectives to describe this guy, but I want to show you, I want to illustrate and tell a true story about what a scourge, what a coward, what a gutless piece of shit that Mark Madden is. And Mark Madden, if you're listening, I know you are because you responded. I don't even know what you said, but you started knocking me again. You haven't learned anything after 15 years. You don't know when to leave well enough alone. So anyway, I don't know what he said about me. I don't care, because everybody knows that he's just a diarrhea-mouth punk. But I want to tell you, I want to illustrate what kind of person Mark Madden is. Back about 10 years ago, when Brian Hildebrand, Mark Curtis, was sick and had his problems with cancer, and he had a lot of medical bills, a lot of his friends got together up in Rostraver, Pennsylvania, right outside of Pittsburgh, to do a show for him. Everybody worked for free, of course, to help raise money for his medical bills. And I learned the night before that Mark Madden was going to be there. And Mark Madden had already lied about me and tried to cause me trouble with Smoky Mountain Wrestling and tried to cause me trouble with the wrestlers, lying, saying that I owed Tom Pritchard and Jimmy Del Rey money when I didn't, and all these other things, trying to get over with his boss, his suck-up buddy Eric Bischoff. And so I found out Madden was going to be there, and I called the guy that was promoting the show, Cody Michaels, and I said, Cody, I said, this is not the time or place for me to have this problem. Mark Madden's going to be in the building. If he is, I'm going to beat his brains out. I may not be able to rip many people in professional wrestling, but he's one of them that I can, and I'm going to murder him. I'm going to murder him if I see him. So I'm going to bow out. I'll send a check, whatever I need to do to help Brian out, but I don't want to screw up his day and his show. And Cody pleaded with me. He said, please, it's important you be there. He's going to do a radio remote for us. It's going to help draw for the show. I will keep him in a room. You will never see him. Because I got the same problem with Bruno Sammartino, because Bruno hates the punk too. And so you'll never see him, please. So I'll think about it. Call me in the morning. So in the meantime, Mark Madden hears about what's going on, and he actually, this no good excuse for a human being, actually told Cody Michaels, if Jim Cornette beats me up, then I'm going to sue you, and I'm going to take the money from the gate from the show that was going to pay Brian Hildebrand's medical bills, a guy with cancer, a guy that had more guts and more decency in his little finger than Mark Madden's ever had in his whole fat, cottage cheese-ridden, stretch-marked body. And he told Cody Michaels he was going to take the money from the show if I beat him up like he knew I was going to. So, Mark Madden, let me tell you one thing, you fucking piece of shit. You lied about me 15 years ago. I was your friend. I drove you and bought you fucking Wendy's, you fat cow.
Bischoff, who's probably a latent flaming homosexual with the cigars he likes to smoke and the Harleys he likes to drive and the facts he likes to hang around Kevin Nash. There, I got all that out. But anyway, fuck you, Bischoff. You're a fucking prick. I put a booger on his car in Atlanta one time. I'll tell you about that. Here comes a Corvette, and up pops Eric Bischoff out of it. I said, well, wouldn't you know who won the fucking pony? So I'm looking at that Corvette. You know, my nose is stopped up. I worked up, I had this food all the way. I got the biggest juices when I could have smeared it all over that little prick's windshield. His phony hair and his goddamn fake teeth and his store-bought tan and his fucking Jason Hervey. I'm gonna be a fucking producer. Fuck you. Fuck you. This goddamn inconsiderate weasel. In walks this fucking lame-ass goddamn prick with fucking dreadlocks. He looked like a white Bob Marley with a big fucking sand ass. He comes up to me with his fucking hand out. So I walked up to him and I said, "Hi, Ed." And this is not verbatim because I said a lot of words real quick. But I said, I just want to tell you what a fucking miserable fucking piece of shit you are, you goddamn no good cocksucker, for fucking making fun of Jim Ross's Bell's palsy. Now, I will digress here. Here's a fucking guy who's given 30 years of his life to the business, Jim Ross, who is the best announcer, maybe asterisk Gordon Soley, but who's the best announcer now of modern times, who is a workaholic, who gives his life to the business, who loves the business. And here this little fucking prick comes along from writing Duckman or whatever the fuck he did in California and took 2 wrestling classes at Slammer's wrestling gym and thinks he deserves a goddamn spot in the wrestling business and goes on national television and makes fun of a guy's he wasn't doing fat jokes. He wasn't doing goddamn bad hair jokes. He wasn't doing ugly jokes. He was making fun of a goddamn disability, a disease, a fucking paralysis of this guy's face that almost cost him his career, and he goes on television and makes fun of it. He's the most disreputable, miserable fucking piece of shit human being that's ever breathed air, in my opinion. And I felt someone should tell him so. So I said, you fucking miserable piece of shit, for making fun of Jim Ross's Bell's palsy, I want to tell you that you're a goddamn cocksucker. Fuck you, you fucking miserable asshole. And he's like, oh, really? I said, yeah, really. I said, Jim Ross has more talent in his little finger than you got in your whole stinking body. It's a goddamn shame you ever got in the fucking wrestling business to begin with. And fuck you, fuck you, fuck you in the ass. And he's like, oh, really? Well, I said I wouldn't hit him, but I didn't say I wouldn't spit on him, so hot too, and I spit in his fucking eye. And I said, now, the parking lot's 15 feet that way, you little cocksucker. You want to do anything about it? I don't know that I can whip him, but I was willing to try, whereas he didn't even have the goddamn balls. If you took Ed Ferrara's fucking nuts and you fucking threw them into a goddamn drinking straw, they'd look like a kernel of corn rolling into a storm drain. He's a goddamn cowardly, miserable fucking prick. He had the chance to fucking defend himself, he had the chance to fight me, and he wouldn't do it. Not because I'm goddamn King Kong or Godzilla, because he's a ballless, nutless, cowardly, yellow-bellied fucking prick. But I felt like somebody had to tell him, if you fuck with a friend of mine, I learned this from my mother and my father and a lot of people I've been around that I respect. If you fuck with a friend of mine, then you're fucking with me. It wasn't about somebody didn't do a job for me, or somebody didn't pay me back this money, or somebody didn't fucking give me interview time, or any wrestling pissy-ass bullshit. He made fun of a person who I respect and who's been a friend to me. He made fun of their fucking disease, their disability that almost cost them their career, and I think he should be run over by a goddamn 18-wheeler in the fucking street. And fuck him.
Ed Ferrara's a piece of shit. And Ed Ferrara was the guy that was carrying papers around for the other piece of shit, the other piece of shit, the other piece of shit, the other piece of shit. The other piece of shit.